My name is Yolanda Plowman. I'm the Senior Research Manager here at the Birch Oak Cropping Group. So now I'm going to launch into BCG's involvement in the project. This is all about integrating new practices, best practices, all of the above for protecting vulnerable soils. The strategies that BCG are going to be looking at and are already implementing and will be implementing over the summer as well, we're looking at varying sowing rates, varying nitrogen management strategies, improving soil quality, ground cover over the summer, and addressing seepages using key summer crops. So a big part of our focus at BCG is ground cover, and that's why we're looking at sowing rates and nitrogen, as well as just, can we make the paddock more productive? Is it economically viable to implement this particular strategy? So it's a very holistic kind of project. It's got very wide goalposts, so we can get in there and be really creative, go in, look at what the farmer's dealing with in a particular paddock and start troubleshooting and looking at strategies. So we've got 3 sites as part of this project, or 3 locations. We've got one just north of Walpia, one in Oyen, and then we've actually got 3 paddocks in Coolanong. We're looking at wheat, vetch, and the 3 sites in Coolanong there are, we've got a fallow, we've got a wheat, and we've got barley. As Mel said, we are targeting the high to very high wind erosion susceptibility zones, so you can see those there. And to connect with what Beck was saying, we've got ground cover assessments throughout the growing season and following as well. We're going to be using satellite imagery to get an idea of ground cover percentage, and biomass cuts throughout the season, harvest yield and protein monitoring as well, and also looking at profitability, what's coming in, what's going out, and what's economical. So I'm going to talk through quickly our sites and our strategies. This here is baby wheat, as you can see, and you can see a beautiful example there of the swale mid-slope dune system. That dune was not too bad, but there are some dunes in that paddock that are quite bare. So we're really just targeting nitrogen strategies here, and that's what's shown on the screen at the moment. We've got 3 different nitrogen rates. We're looking at yield profit decile 5, decile 10, and then we also have 3 strips for just the paddock standard. And so the grower would only spread urea on the dunes, but we're spreading them strips covering all of those systems along the paddock. Importantly, this is a replicated trial, so statistically it is quite robust. So I'm very excited about this one because we're going to be able to pull out a lot of really reliable data, not just about nitrogen management in the current seasonal conditions, but also the economic viability of, targeting every single system in the paddock. So the key questions we're looking at there are, does nitrogen strategy affect ground cover? Does it affect stubble after harvest? And ultimately, does that help us protect the soil over the summer? And can we make the paddock more productive? So you can see that's me bouncing around there in the tractor. That was us spreading the urea, top dressing. Our second site was vetch. And again, this picture was taken, that's Daryl Pearl from the Agriculture of Victoria there in the foreground. That was from a crop walk that we carried out a couple of weeks ago. And you can see again, we've got a dune system that we're slowly making our way up. This paddock, we had 4 different strips, essentially. We had a strip with no fungicide and no gibberellic acid. We had 1 strip with fungicide, prophylactic, and we had a strip of gibberellic acid early application and a strip of gibberellic acid, just standard application. And what we're going to be doing, this is a map to show you, what we're going to be looking at there is whether the gibberellic acid or the prophylactic fungicide helps increase biomass. So preliminary biomass cuts would tell us that it has had an effect, but because this is not a replicated trial, these are essentially really large demo strips, we will need to rely on satellite imagery to have conclusive results with that one. So we will be able to present this at the end of the year. That's me standing at the top of the dune. So in the swale and the mid-slopes, the vetch was looking really lush and really healthy. But then you can see on the right-hand side of the screen here, at the top of the dune, the vetch was looking fairly deficient. And so again, you can see that there's a lot of exposed soil there, sandy soil. And it's extremely windy. Every time I've been out to that paddock, there has been a lot of wind coming through and a lot of sand kicking up. So it is a very vulnerable spot. This is in the high erosion zone, susceptibility zone. So again, do those treatments affect ground cover? Is the soil more protected? Can we make the paddock more productive? And then over the summer, what we're looking at is implementing some different ground covers to look at addressing different things. So there was a relatively high disease load in this paddock that I detected. We sampled and we sent the specimens away for pathology analysis, and one of the ground covers we're going to look to implement over summer might be a brassica, to see if we can capitalise on some of those biofumigation characteristics of brassicas. We'll also implement maybe one or two other types of ground covers to address different things. So that's yet to be decided, and there's more results to come. And now Site 3 in Coolanong. So you can see here on the screen, we've got 3 paddocks outlined. Our first paddock is a fallow currently. It has a barley stubble and it's generally grazed over the summer. Here it is here. You can see a lot of grass and some barley. You can see that the dune is quite exposed. So again, this is a particularly vulnerable paddock. We did detect acidity in the dunes, and there was again a high disease load in this paddock, and soil erosion is a real issue. So our approach with Paddock 1 is to improve the soil pH. So we've limed the dunes. You can see Kate there on the side. She's standing in front of a big pile of lime. And we're also going to be implementing some summer crops as well. And that's going to hopefully address some of the disease, provide some ground cover to provide protection, and also potentially address a seep that's occurring in the paddock. We do have a event coming up next Monday. It's a crop walk with Michael Moody and Rob Sonigan, so please do register for that if you're interested in this. So Paddock 1, is there value in growing summer ground cover crop, and potentially not necessarily an explicit cover crop? We might actually grow a crop to address the seepage issue as well, but we'll do various strips and we'll look at all of the different factors there. Are there better or worse choices in this kind of environment? Can we make the paddock more productive? So our second paddock here is wheat, and we've got that on a chickpea and lupin stubble. Now you can see it split out there. Soil erosion is an issue in this paddock, and also it's a non-wetting soil, and we think that that's because of the lupin breakdown. So that's something to be addressed as well. In this paddock, we are looking at varied sowing rates. We're looking at different nitrogen strategies, and we're going to be looking at different cutting heights as well come harvest time. So we'll look at 10 centimetres, standard height, and then we'll use a stripper front to take the heads off. There's obviously the higher you can harvest and the more stubble you've got, the better ground cover you've got and the more protected the soil. But it's not always economical to use stripper front and take just the heads off, particularly if you have sheep, as you probably all know, and sowing into the next season, you might be burning more diesel to get through that extra stubble. So we have to look at, the cost benefit there. We'll also look to address the non-wetting soil, but we're yet to decide on what strategy to use there. So those are our key questions. Looking at providing more ground cover, looking at whether leaving more higher stubble is better or worse for the farm overall. And this is just a little diagram of how that looks. So you can see that we've got seeding rate at 80 kilograms per hectare and 40 kilograms per hectare. And then we're working to a yield profit decile 5 and decile 10 across both stubbles. And finally, our third paddock is barley commodus. We've got a vetch and a lupin stubble. You can see it there, again, a beautiful shot of that dune. And essentially we're targeting soil erosion or increasing ground cover. So much like the paddock that I spoke about previously, Paddock 2, we've got varied sowing rates, nitrogen rates, and looking at cutting heights again. Those are our key questions, very similar and a similar design. So unfortunately, I don't have any results to share with you today because we're still in the process of carrying these experiments out. We will be having a little travelling trials review event at the start of next year to share with growers in the region what we found and how to integrate the practices that were successful. And then we'll also have case studies. We'll probably have some technical reports as well. And we'll probably write up an article for the 2023 compendium. As Beck said, we'll also have videos and podcasts. So there's plenty to come. Do stay tuned. The whole point of this project was to work with farmers with current problems that they're currently experiencing and problem solving there. Thank you very much to the farmers, Tim and Adam Weir in Oyen, Ross Stone and Tarita, and Simon Craig in Coolanong. We have a video up of Simon Craig on YouTube talking about his involvement in the project if you're interested. And this is the flyer for our event on Monday. So please do come along, do register for it so that we can cater for you. It's free. And we'll be talking more about these strategies and hearing from Rob Sonigan and Michael Moody as well. So with that, I'll wrap up this presentation and say thank you very much for your attention.